Dearest gentle listener, once upon a time, in the heart of Lagos, a billionaire decided to test the hearts of his family and associates. He pretended to lose everything and lived among them like a poor man. See who loved him for real. What happened in those 14 days will shock you and teach you deep lessons about family, greed, and true wealth, while keeping you entertained. This is how it all started. There was a man called General Adetokunbo Adebayo, but people knew him simply as Tox the Billionaire. He was one of the richest men in Nigeria. He owned tall buildings, big companies, many cars, and even houses in other countries. If you searched his name online, all you would see was success. But that night, Tox was not smiling. He sat alone on the top floor of his mansion in Lagos, looking down at the city lights. The air was cool. The night was quiet. In his hand was a warm cup of tea, but in his heart there was trouble. He had everything, but he felt empty. My children only come to me when they need money, he said to himself. My wife barely looks at me unless she wants something. My own sister calls me brother dearest only when her account is low. Tox sighed deeply. If I lost everything today, would anyone still love me? That was the question that refused to leave his mind. So, he made a decision. He was going to pretend he had gone bankrupt. No more money, no more luxury. He wanted to see who truly cared about him and who only stayed because of his wealth. He picked up his phone and called his assistant, Chidima. Cancel all my meetings, he said quietly. Call the bank. Tell them to freeze my accounts. Spread the news. I am broke. Chidima was shocked. Sir, are you serious? Yes, he replied. Tomorrow, the story begins. And with that, Tox stood up, looked out into the night sky, and whispered, Let me see who truly loves me. The next morning, the Adebayo mansion was no longer filled with laughter and music. It was filled with silence, heavy silence. The staff gathered in small groups, whispering. The cook didn't fry plantain like she usually did. The cleaners didn't sing while sweeping. Even the gardener forgot to water the flowers. Something had changed. Toxie's wife, Madame Ifoma, sat on the edge of their soft white bed, staring at her phone screen. Her mouth was slightly open. Her hand was shaking. There it was, on every blog, news site, and social media page. Billionaire Adetokunbo Adebayo loses everything overnight. What kind of joke is this? She said to herself. This must be a mistake. She rushed downstairs in a silk robe in the living room. Her two children, Tolu and Ada, were already scrolling through their phones with wide eyes. Mommy, Ada asked in a small voice, are we poor now? Tolu, who was 16 and always full of himself, stood up. No way, Dad can't be poor. Maybe it's fake news. Just then, Funke, Toxie's younger sister, stormed into the house, wearing sunglasses and red lipstick. Ifoma, what is happening? Is it true? I just called the bank. My account is frozen. Mine. Ifoma didn't answer. She was already dialing her husband's number. It rang. No answer. Meanwhile, upstairs, Tox sat quietly in his study. He could hear their voices downstairs. He closed his eyes and listened. Not one of them had asked if he was okay. Not one. They were only worried about the money. He took a deep breath. Now the lesson has begun. By the second day, things began to change in the Adebayo mansion. The power went out. At first, no one panicked. They were used to short blackouts here and there. But after 2 hours passed and the generator didn't come on, Madame Ifoma picked up her phone and called the driver. Tell Musa to switch on the gen, she said. Ma, the driver replied softly. They said we don't have diesel and the fuel card no longer works. What do you mean the card doesn't work? The bank rejected it, ma. They say Oga's account is frozen. Ifoma hung up slowly. Her daughter, Ada, who had just come down from her room, was sweating. Mommy, can we please on the AC? This heat is killing me. There's no light, Ifoma snapped, wiping sweat from her own forehead. Then she turned to her son, Tolu. Use your phone and order fuel online. Tolu tried. Mom, it's not going through. My monthly allowance card is blocked. That was when silence hit the house like thunder. No power, no AC, no internet, no housekeeper to iron clothes, no chef to cook lunch. Everyone had left. Madame Ifoma stood in the middle of the living room. Her neatly painted nails were shaking. The silence of the house was now louder than ever. She picked up her phone again and dialed Talks. This time he answered. Talks, what is going on? No light, no food, no staff. How can you allow this embarrassment? But Talks' voice was calm. Ifoma, we don't have money anymore. We need to manage. Manage. Me. Manage. Talks ended the call. And for the first time in her life, Ifoma realized she did not know how to survive without wealth. By the third day, the mansion became even quieter. No one came to visit. Before now, friends used to stop by every day. Some came for business, others for food, and many just wanted to be around rich people. Laughter used to fill the halls. Glasses would clink. Cars lined the driveway. But now, nothing. Not even one knock on the gate. Ifoma stood by the window, peeking through the curtains. Where's Nkechi? She always comes every Thursday. Tolu slouched on the couch without Wi-Fi. Muttered, maybe she heard the news. Ada was trying to call her best friend too. She's not picking, she said softly. She always speaks. Later that day, Funke came back to the house, but not with her usual perfume and heels. This time, her face was hard. Talks, she called out from the hallway. Brother, we need to talk. He came out slowly, wearing a plain shirt and slippers. You froze all our accounts? Even the boutique is locked? I have bills. You need to fix this. Talks looked her in the eye. Funke, I didn't freeze your account. The money is gone. Funke laughed. Gone? Since when? You had billions. He shrugged. Business crashed. There's nothing left. Funke hissed. Then you better find something fast, because if you think I'll suffer with you, you are wrong, my brother. She picked her bag and stormed off. Talks watched her go. He didn't stop her. That evening, the driver, the chef, and the two cleaners who were left were sent text messages that they were being laid off by Mr. Talks. In his words, he no longer had the money to continue to pay for their services. By nightfall, the mansion felt like a ghost house. Everyone had disappeared. Only the ones who truly cared were left. And sadly, it was starting to look like no one did. By the fourth day, the Adebayo mansion finally felt what it meant to be empty. Not just of people, but of food. The fridge was no longer humming. The freezer had melted. And the smell from the kitchen, something had gone bad. Very bad. Ada opened the fridge and closed it fast. Mommy, something is smelling. Tolu frowned. We haven't eaten since morning. This is not funny again. Madam Ifoma was quiet. She had tried calling her sister, her best friend, even her pastor. Nobody was speaking. She finally walked to her husband's study, her face pale. Talks, we need to buy food, she said quietly. Talks looked at her gently. I told you, the cards are not working. So what do we do? She asked, her voice breaking. He stood up, reached into a drawer, and brought out a small bundle of cash. Some crumpled naira notes. This is all we have left. I was keeping it for fuel, but let's buy food instead. Madam Ifoma held the money and stared at it like it was poison. I can't go to the market, she said. Then give it to Ada, let her follow the driver. Ifoma blinked. There is no driver, remember? Talk said nothing. And so that afternoon, for the first time in her life, Madam Ifoma tied a scarf on her head, wore flat sandals, and walked to the corner shop, holding a nylon bag. Nobody recognized her, or maybe they did and just didn't care. She returned with a few cups of rice, oil, and onions, enough to cook a small pot. And that night, the whole family sat in silence, eating from the same bowl. No chef, no wine, no noise, just rice and the bitter taste of truth. On the fifth day, emotions started to rise. Tolu, the teenage son, paced around the house angrily. I don't understand. Why aren't we fixing this? What is the point of being a man if you can't provide? He was talking to his father. Talk sat on the edge of the sofa, calm but tired. Tolu, he said softly, we're learning how to survive. We must adjust. Tolu scoffed. Adjust? You raised us to be rich. You gave us everything. And now you are teaching us to adjust, to be poor? It's not fair. Ada, the younger daughter, was crying in the corner. Daddy, are we going to beg people for food? No, Talks replied, gently holding her hand. But we will learn how to live without depending on money alone. That evening, something even more painful happened. Ifoma came downstairs with a bag, a travel bag. Where are you going? Talks asked her. She looked at him and said, I called my cousin. She agreed I can stay with her in Ikoyi for now, until you sort yourself out. You are leaving your home? I didn't sign up for this, she said coldly. You should have told me this could happen. I need space. And with that, she picked her bag and left. Tok stood by the window and watched the gate close behind her. His wife had left. His son was angry. His daughter was scared. Only the truth remained. And the truth was louder than ever. The next morning, Ada knocked gently on her father's study door. Daddy, can I come in? Of course, he said, sitting up. She walked in quietly and sat beside him. Daddy, she began. When you were rich, did you know that people didn't really love you? Tox looked at his daughter and smiled sadly. I suspected, but I wasn't sure. That's why I had to find out. Ada thought for a moment. If this is a test, why didn't you test them in another way? He touched her shoulder gently. Because, my dear, when a man has nothing, he sees everything. Poverty removes mask, and in silence we hear the truth. Ada nodded slowly. She was young, but her father's words went straight into her heart. Daddy, she whispered, I love you, even if we eat only rice and water forever. He held her close, smiled, and whispered back, That's all I needed to know. That evening, there was a knock at the gate. It was quiet at first, then louder. Tok stood up and walked outside slowly. There, standing in front of the gate, was Chidinma, his assistant. She was holding 2 bags of groceries and a pack of drinking water. Sir, she said, smiling, I thought you might need a few things. Tox was surprised. You came? She nodded. Yes, even if I am aware all this is a test, and you want to see who truly cares. And if at all it wasn't a test, I will still be here, because money doesn't buy loyalty. Respect does. Tox smiled. Thank you, Chi. She followed him into the house. She cooked for Ada and even cleaned the kitchen. That night, they ate together. Tox, Ada, Tolu, and Chidinma. For the first time in days, laughter returned to the house. By the 6th day, Tox received a phone call that stung more than any insult. It was from his younger brother, Dimeji. Tox, I heard the news. Is it true? Tox sighed. Yes, Dimeji. Business crashed. I'm taking time to think. But instead of sympathy, Dimeji laughed. You, Tox the Almighty. Yeah, all those years, you were forming big man. You couldn't even plan well. What a shame. Tox felt his chest tighten. Brother, did you call just to make fun of me? Dimeji continued. Well, now that you're down, maybe you remember those of us you left behind. You never helped me. Now you want pity? I beg, carry your cross. He hung up. Tox stared at his phone. His own brother, the one he trained through school, the one who used to call him my hero, gone with the wind. Ada came into the room moments later and found her father sitting quietly, phone in hand, eyes wet. Daddy, what happened? He smiled faintly. Nothing, my child. I'm just remembering how far love can disappear when money disappears. Later that same day, something unexpected happened. The doorbell rang again. This time it was Samuel, the security man Tox had laid off 3 days ago. Sir, Samuel said, removing his cap. I know you asked us to go, but I couldn't rest. Tox raised his brow. Why? Samuel opened his bag. Inside was a bag of beans, garri, and a bottle of groundnut oil. My wife and I, we don't have plenty, but we decided to share. You treated me well, sir. You used to give me Christmas bonus when others didn't even greet us. Tox felt something warm in his eyes. He stepped outside and hugged Samuel. You're a good man, Sam. A very good man. Samuel smiled. Sir, money comes and goes, but respect, that one lasts forever. They sat outside together, just 2 men with open hearts. The mansion didn't have its former glory, but it was starting to feel like a real home. That night, Tolu could not sleep. He had been scrolling through old photos of vacations, designer clothes, birthday parties, all the things he once had. But now, his phone was quiet, no friends checking in, no parties to attend. Suddenly, he stood up and walked into his father's study. Tox looked up from a notepad. Daddy, Tolu said, his voice shaking. Can I ask you something? Tox nodded. Was I spoiled? Tox smiled gently. No, my son, you were not spoiled. You were just never taught the values of losing. Tolu sat down. I felt ashamed I shouted at you the other day. I didn't understand. I thought money made us who we are. But now? Tox asked. Now I see it's not money. It's how we treat people. It's how we handle tough times. Tox reached for his son's hand. I'm proud of you. The fact that you can say this shows you are already growing. Tolu nodded, eyes moist. I want to learn, Daddy. I want to become a man, not just a rich boy. That night, Tolu helped sweep the compound for the first time in his life. And for the first time, Tox went to bed smiling. Because his son was no longer a boy. He was becoming a man. On the 7th day, the gate opened once again. It was Ifeoma. She walked in slowly, suitcase in hand, wearing no makeup, just a simple wrapper and blouse. Ada saw her first. Mommy! She ran to hug her mother. Tox stepped into the corridor. You came back, he said, gently. Ifeoma nodded, eyes watery. I sat in my cousin's house, but I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about you, the children, this house. She paused. You gave us a good life, Tox, but we became blind. We forgot how to love you when things weren't perfect. Tox walked closer. I'm sorry I walked away, she whispered. I was afraid. I thought I couldn't survive without riches. He smiled gently. But you came back. That's what matters. They hugged. That evening, Ifeoma helped Chidinma cook. She even fetched water from the backyard. For the first time in years, she remembered how to do things for herself. And for the first time in forever, she looked at Tox not as a provider, but as a partner. On the 8th day, someone unexpected knocked on the gate. It was Chuka, Tox's first son from his youth, the one he had before he met Ifeoma. Chuka had lived in the East all his life. He was humble, hardworking, a quiet mechanic with a small shop in Enugu. But when he heard the news about his father's downfall, he closed his workshop and took the night bus. Papa, Chuka said, bowing his head with respect. Tox was shocked. Chuka, what are you doing here? Chuka smiled. I came to stand by you. Rich or poor, you're still my father. Remember? Tox blinked back tears. Chuka brought 2 loaves of bread, some groundnut paste, and a small bag of rice. I know it's not much, Papa, but I came with my hands too. I can fix anything. Clean, cook, you don't have to face this alone. That evening, Chuka swept the compound, helped Chidinma fix the generator, and even carried Ada on his back when she complained of leg pain. Tolu watched quietly from the balcony. This man, who had grown up with less, was more of a son to his father than he had ever been. Later that night, Tolu knocked on Chuka's door. Bro, can we talk? Chuka looked up. Sure. Tolu stood awkwardly. I want to say sorry. I've never been nice to you. I always thought you were beneath me. Chuka chuckled. You were a boy then. Now you're becoming a man. They sat outside, under the moonlight. Tolu confessed. I didn't know how to do anything. I didn't know how to be real. Chuka patted his back. That's okay. We grow when things get hard. The next morning, Tolu joined Chuka to fix the broken water pipe at the back of the house. It was muddy. It was hard. But Tolu smiled the whole time. His hands were dirty, but for the first time, his heart felt clean. By the 10th day, word had spread across the city. People began showing up, some to mock, some to pretend to care, and some out of pure nosiness. Mrs. Tade, their former church leader, came with a forced smile. Tox, God is testing you. You should come for our special program on breaking generational poverty. I will reserve front seats for you. Tox thanked her, even though her eyes kept scanning the room like she was hunting for gossip. An old business partner, Mr. Gambo, came too. Ah, Tox, life is turn by turn. If you need a small loan, come and see me. But of course, interest will be 25% monthly. Tox smiled. Thank you, Gambo, but I'm okay. Each visitor left with whispers and sideways glances. But Tox wasn't shaking. He now saw clearly who was real and who was just noise. One afternoon, Tox went to the local market with Chuka and Tolu. They wanted to buy foodstuff. Just tomatoes, onions, and gari. As they priced items, a woman from a small corner store shouted, Oga, you don't remember me? Tox looked up. It was Mama Nkechi, the woman he once gave money to pay her daughter's hospital bill. She rushed out and hugged him tightly. You helped me when I was crying. Now it's my turn. Before he could speak, she packed a full bag. Yam, pepper, oil, crayfish and handed it to him. No payments, just take it. You're a good man. Tox wanted to refuse, but Mama Nkechi insisted. Don't block my blessing, sir. Take it and eat well. Back at home, Chidinma cooked a feast from Mama Nkechi's gift, and as the aroma filled the house, so did something else. Gratitude, the kind you can't buy with billions. My dearest gentle listener, one quiet morning, while everyone was outside clearing the backyard, Ifeoma sat alone in the kitchen. She held an old photograph in her hand. A wedding picture. Her eyes were red from crying. In that photo, she stood beside Tox. Her smile was wide, her eyes bright. Back then, she was not wearing gold. She had no designer bag, but she had peace. She stared at that photo for a long time, then whispered, "What happened to me?" Guilt sat on her chest like a heavy load. Suddenly, Ada walked in. "Mommy, are you okay?" Ifeoma wiped her face quickly. "Yes, baby, I'm fine." But Ada came closer and hugged her. "It's okay to cry, Mommy. I know you miss Daddy's money, but we are still here." That broke Ifeoma. She hugged her daughter tight and cried like a child. "I was so blind. I thought money was everything." She spent the whole day with Ada, washing, cooking, even playing Ludo in the evening. That night, when Tox came in and saw her sitting quietly on the floor, peeling egusi, he was speechless. She looked up and said softly, "I'm sorry for everything." Tox didn't say a word. He simply sat beside her, took another knife, and helped her peel. By the 12th day, the family was no longer just surviving, they were living. Tolu had started teaching young boys in the neighborhood how to use computers. Chuka fixed the neighbor's water pump and refused payments. Ifeoma began helping Mama Nkechi in the market just to keep her hands busy and her heart soft. And every evening, the family sat together to eat from one pot, tell stories, and laugh like people who had nothing but had everything. One night, Tok stood up from the dinner table and looked at them all. "My family," he said. "Do you see now?" They looked up. "See what?" Tolu asked. "That we were never rich before," he said. "We just had money." There was a long silence, but now, he continued, "We are truly rich because we have each other." And truly, gentle listener, that day, even though their pockets were empty, their hearts were full. On the morning of the 13th day, Tox wore a clean white shirt, shaved his beard, and polished his old black shoes. "Where are you going?" Ifeoma asked. He smiled. "To bring the truth home." That evening, 2 black jeeps entered the compound. Men in suits came down and began carrying bags inside, bags filled with cash, clothes, even a brand new laptop for Tolu. Tox walked in with a calm smile. "My dear family," he said, "I have a confession." They gathered around him, confused. "I have a confession. Don't take it personal. I am not poor. I was never poor." Gasps filled the room. He continued, "I pretended to lose everything just to see what we truly had, to see if we had love, respect, unity." Chuka stood still, mouth open. Tolu dropped his spoon. Ifeoma blinked. "You mean this was all a setup?" Tox nodded slowly, and you all passed, even when it was hard, even when it hurt. Then he turned to Chuka. "My son, you didn't have to come, but you did." He opened one of the bags and brought out car keys and a house key. He said, "This is for you, your own mechanic shop, your own house, your own car, and some cash to get for yourself, whatever it is you need." Chuka fell on his knees, crying. Tolu ran to hug him. "You deserve it, brother. You really do." Tox faced Tolu. "And you, my son, have a good heart. I see it now. Give him a check. Start that tech hub you talked about." Tolu shouted and hugged him. Then he turned to Ifeoma. "My lovely wife, I missed you." And she replied with tears, "I missed us, Tox. I really do." The very next morning, the whole family went to church, not in designer clothes, not to show off, but to give thanks. Even Mama Nkechi joined them. After service, they hosted a small Thanksgiving at home. No caterers, no crowd, just jollof rice, fried meat, and palm wine under the mango tree. Laughter echoed. Children ran around. Neighbors shared stories. It was simple, it was sweet, and it was real. Later that night, Tok stood by the window, looking at the moon. Ifeoma walked up beside him. "Thank you," she whispered. "You saved us from ourselves." He smiled and wrapped his arms around her. Money didn't destroy us, my darling, but forgetting what matters almost did. And so, my gentle listener, our tale ends here with a family who lost everything to find everything that truly matters. And may it remind us all that the richest person is not the one who has the most, but the one who needs the least and loves the most. Thank you for watching. See you on the next story. Bye.